This is TWiT.
Hit refresh. Here it is. So I got an advanced copy of this a week ago to read. And of course, immediately the first thing you do is flip to the index, and I'm in the book.
See, I flipped to the index and I looked up Windows Phone.
Yeah, well, I'm self-centered. You're not.
Wait, was this from the exclusive interview that you had with Satya Nadella? Is that?
No. So I mentioned like literally in one sentence in the book, and it's not a bad mention.
It's better than 0 sentences, by the way.
In it, Nadella's talking about how they came to think about cloud computing and get into the market. And I happened to write this article a number of years ago about Microsoft doing this thing codenamed Red Dog, which ended up being Azure. And so he said, yeah, journalist Mary Jo Foley, she wrote about this thing called Red Dog. I'm like, hey, I'm in the book. That was it. That was my whole mention. My 1 second of fame.
It works.
But overall about the book. So this is a very interesting book. The premise of the book is Nadella tells us how he has tried to reinvigorate and re-energize the company since he became the CEO. And the book starts out talking a bit about his childhood, his children. He kind of shows all his sources of inspiration and how he came to think about leading Microsoft. So I was kind of excited as I started out the book, and I was like, oh, this is going to be good, like really good insight into, you know, what Microsoft's doing, their strategy and such. Well, I like the beginning of the book. And then in the middle, I feel like a lot of Microsoft's decisions were explained away as being about growth mindset. Like everything they did that was a hard decision, like making Windows free for a year when Windows 10 first came out, instead of saying it was because Android was kicking our butt, they said, it's because of our growth mindset. And there are a lot of examples like that, so I felt a little bit let down about that. I really wanted some more insights about, you know, why they made some of these choices and kind of how that changed the strategy of the company.
I think they wanted to theme it, you know, in other words,
I think so.
Like there's some cohesive strategy that's always in place.
Right.
It'd be nice to get past the marketing speak.
It would be. Yeah. You know, and the book has 2 other co-authors with him. One of them is his former chief of staff, whose name is Jill Tracy Nichols, and another person from Microsoft, Greg Shaw. So, you know, it's kind of a book that was written by committee, I'm sure, to some extent. And I liked it, but I wanted to love it, and I didn't love it, to be very honest.
And that's just because you were hoping for a few extra frank moments.
I was. I wanted
that.
a few more moments. But some of the things he was honest about really caught me off guard, like the one you found when you were looking through.
Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said I looked up Windows Phone first. It literally was the first thing I looked up. And he confirmed rumors that had been around a few years ago that when he was, before he was CEO, he was on the senior leadership team for then CEO Steve Ballmer. And Steve Ballmer was in the middle of acquiring Nokia. And a lot of shareholders and a lot of the board members and a lot of the senior leadership team were against that acquisition. So he finally asked his team, well, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. He doesn't say what other people voted, but he voted no. And then, of course, he became the CEO about 5 months later. And there was a kind of suspicion, I think, in the fan base that he wasn't a big proponent of Windows Phone. And they did what they did for a couple of years, or for a year, maybe, and saw little success. And then, of course, he dismantled the phone business. He laid off, is it 18,000 people?
No, more, like 30,000?
Some huge number of employees. And of course, that's kind of a tough thing. Yeah. And he says, looking back on this, that his biggest regret is the layoffs. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a little bit at the end of the book about the 3 technologies he's betting the company on. Of course, one is quantum computing, right? Mixed reality.
That might explain the quantum computing.
I know, that might. Mixed reality, quantum computing, and AI.
So of those 3, I think quantum computing is the one that would be the least familiar to most.
True. Yeah.
And it's possible that this is just about that, because here comes the book. So let's remind everybody what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's worth a read. If you have to deal with Microsoft, or you're a Microsoft fan, or even a foe, I would say it's worth a read, just because, you know, we cover this so closely that a lot of this was very familiar to us. And we had heard a lot of these stories that are in the book. But if you're not following Microsoft every second of every day like us, you may find some things in here you haven't heard.
And it helps to understand the mindset.
It does.
Because the company
mindset.
the company just approaches things a certain way these days, and it's still maybe a little weird to some of us who've been around for a long time.
Yeah.